Those 400 guns that aren't in the hands of folks that shouldn't have them are less likely to be used in gang crimes and less likely to be used in mass shootings. Because all of us understand the connection between that and mental illness.
Still, homicides in the city are up nearly 9% according to the latest yearly crime stats. 60% of those killings gang-related. The chief and the sheriff say open communication between law enforcement and communities will be part of the solution. At City Hall, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The chief also says new safe storage laws, continued outreach, and gun buyback programs will also help. Well, people across the nation were invited to wear their jeans in support of sexual assault awareness. Rasha Goel has more on how the city of LA is participating in this social cause.
Luna Flores Ramirez is a high school student, and today she is among the many wearing her denim to advocate Denim Day at LA City Hall and help send an important message to men and women across Los Angeles.
I think Denim Day is about supporting survivors of sexual assault and making sure that no victim or survivor should feel silenced or blamed or shamed, and opening up a conversation to people about sexual assault.
What began as a simple act of protest has now become an annual public education campaign to wear jeans in the month of April. It began with a group of women supporting a survivor in Italy when a judge overturned a court's conviction of a rapist, ruling that the victim was wearing tight jeans and must have helped the attacker, and implying consent. Denim Day raises awareness around sexual violence prevention.
Respect for women is not an option. It is a mandate. No always means no. You never, ever have a right to force yourself on somebody else, ever.
The Denim Day campaign started in Los Angeles 17 years ago and has become a worldwide movement. This year, the focus is on ending campus rape. Officials say 20% women and 5 to 6% men will experience sexual violence on college campuses.
Denim Day is about supporting victims and survivors of sexual assault and about raising awareness. And sometimes I have to take a step back and think, what do we really mean by raising awareness? Sometimes it's just a matter of convincing people it happens here. It's a problem that we must deal with.
Camilla Willingham's story is shared in this documentary, The Hunting Ground, a film about campus rape.
I went to the Dean of Students' office, and she said, I just want to make sure that you don't talk to anyone about this.
Officials say more than 2 million supporters from schools, clubs, corporations, and government agencies have signed up to wear jeans this year in support of Denim Day. In Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Denim Day is organized by the LA-based nonprofit Peace Over Violence. Well, a public-private partnership between LAPD and a startup is helping homeowners in 2 LA neighborhoods take a bite out of crime, thanks to an innovative tool. Thanks to this state-of-the-art doorbell, the owners of this home are keeping a close eye on their property, and they don't even have to be home to do it. Several hundred homes in the Wilshire Park and Country Club Park neighborhoods received free video doorbells like this one as part of a pilot program between the LAPD and Santa Monica startup called Ring. The goal is to help reduce a spike in burglaries.
In the last 6 months of last year, compared to the same time the previous year, that particular neighborhood had a significant reduction in burglaries, approximately 55%, which is very significant.
The device allows homeowners to monitor their property and front door from their cell phones, no matter where they are.
It works as a doorbell in terms of that it's a Wi-Fi device with one-way video, HD video, two-way audio. Someone comes up and presses the button, you get a notification like a text message. It opens up into the app, and you can see and talk to who's ever there. And then it also has motion detection.
Around 100 units have been installed so far. Palazzolo said these devices have proven effective.
We have some anecdotal evidence that there is a deterrence factor, especially when somebody comes on and says, hey, can I help you?
But Palazzolo said even though the devices have shown to help deter burglaries in the area, they're by no means the only crime prevention measure. He says residents should always be aware of what's happening in their community and keep an eye out for any suspicious behavior. Ring says it plans to expand the program to other parts of the country. Well, business and political heavyweights flex their muscle to expand the rights of transgenders. Gil Reyes explains the Transform California movement.
Mayor Eric Garcetti is among a group of influential political and business leaders signing a pledge to support the transgender community. Maria Roman is a member.
It has been challenging living in a world that most often does not understand me nor wants to. A world that quite frankly punishes trans people for what we represent and who we are.
But big changes may be coming to California with help from some of LA's most powerful people. They've signed on to join a statewide coalition called Transform California, aimed at creating policies to protect transgenders in the areas of housing, healthcare, education, and employment. Count business advocates the LA Area Chamber of Commerce as members.
As some states take steps to enshrine discrimination into their laws, California businesses will keep our doors open to diversity.
This support comes as the LA City Council boycotts business with North Carolina and Mississippi for laws that council members say discriminate against the LGBT community. Sheer Avery says she's known the feeling since preschool.
I would joyfully pull out the girls' clothes when we play dress up, only to be made fun of by the other students and ridiculed by the educators.
Transgender individuals have a much higher rate of murder and suicide and assault and discrimination. It's just terrible, and it's about time we did something about it.
More than 30 organizations, including churches and synagogues, have signed on to join the coalition. Outside City Hall, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Los Angeles recently became the largest municipal government to set up an advisory council to champion the rights of transgenders. Well, LA Sanitation recently kicked off its annual citywide Earth Day LA event. Rasha Goel takes us there.
While it's the 46th year of celebrating Earth Day, it was the first time it was being celebrated at Hansen Dam. The event was put on by the LA Bureau of Sanitation.
Everyone here is volunteering. It's bringing the employees closer to the community we serve. It's closer to our mission of environmental protection.
The event was a fun-filled day for the entire family with entertainment, food, and education.
It's a good experience for like young kids who don't know that much. We don't know that much about Earth Day, because my booth is about the LA River. Other booths are about other things, so they could learn about those things what they never knew about.
It was an opportunity to understand how the city and how Angelenos can work together to take care of our precious resources.
Whether it's tree planting, whether it's water conservation, the variety of things that the city does, or the demonstration of all the, in the background you may be able to see some of the sanitation trucks that are out here, basically giving people a hands-on view of what this city does, what it can do.
As well as giving Angelenos some tips on what they can also do for our Mother Earth. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
The event was free for the community. Well, 8th District Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson led South LA residents through a day of action recently to make sure that requests for city services are received and fulfilled. Rich Samuels has more.
With the help of activists from the Community Coalition, Green Dot Schools, and Alliance Schools, residents joined together to make a difference.
Over 100 some odd residents will go out and make 311 service requests in our district. We do that because a lot of times in our community, particularly when communities are low income, a lot of times we don't know what services are available, and even if we do, we don't always believe they'll show up for us.
The city's My 311 app provides direct access to city services, offering a way to both report and follow up on service requests from cleaning up graffiti, dumping, and other community cleanups, sidewalk repair, or tree trimming.
311 provides us a way to both make the report to follow up and to make sure that the service is actually delivered. Even on the app, there's even a line for graffiti that's on sidewalks.
Residents receive detailed training on how to make sure that South LA receives the city services it deserves.
We're going to be doing research. We're going to be talking to our representatives. We're going to be talking to our neighbors. And I think it's going to make a big change because everybody is really tired of the situation. Everybody I talk to.
Alone, change is hard, but together it's inevitable.
From the cleaner streets of South LA, this is Rich Samuels for LA This Week.
Councilman Harris Dawson pledges to continue holding days of action at locations throughout his district. Well, once a year, LA's Metropolitan Water District does its part for the environment by holding a Spring Green Expo. The event has continued to grow since its creation 9 years ago, and Marcos takes us there.
The 9th annual Spring Green Expo has plenty of lessons on living cleaner on Mother Earth.
It takes 90% less water, 90% less space, and it reduces the carbon footprint, and there's no pesticide, herbicide, or GMO crop.
Here, exhibitors teach you how to grow garden towers, gardens in a burlap sack, even aquaponics gardens where you can grow fish and plants at the same time.
The bacteria will turn the waste, the fish waste, into nitrates. That is plant food and fertilizer, and then the plants will take that. The water is clean and it just goes back into the fish tanks, and it's just a constant cycle, self-sustainable.
Employees with LA's Metropolitan Water District started the Spring Green Expo 9 years ago to do something positive for the environment. Since then, the expo has grown to include all the community, and now dozens of exhibitors come to share their earth-friendly products and ideas.
It's all about learning about the best, newest, latest environmental sustainable practices you can do at home, you can do in your business, you can do in your life.
Here you'll find 3D printers that create educational molds and models made of biodegradable corn. And what Green Expo would be complete without a low-flow toilet demo? One science team from Chapman University took the waste product route. It conducted waste audits and found most of us are very confused when it comes to recycling.
The way you determine whether plastic is recyclable is you look at the bottom of the bottle or the bottom of the item, and there's a number. And as far as I'm aware, California as a state takes all of the numbers.
Well, I know this is confusing for me. I never know what to recycle and what not. For example, this plastic spoon, not recyclable. It has no numbers in the back. However, this plastic bottle is recyclable. It has numbers in the back, as is the Starbucks coffee cup.
There are exceptions with compostable utensils. So, for example, if you have a compostable fork, sometimes it will look like a plastic fork, but on the back it'll say compostable.
As for napkins, if they're dirty, they are not recyclable. You have to put them in the garbage. But if they're clean, they are recyclable. It is confusing.
Looks like we all need more recycling lessons, and the Earth Green Expo is a good place to start. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The event also featured photo exhibits and workshops on sustainability. While survivors of gang violence marched together to honor the dead while celebrating changes to a neighborhood park, Gil Reyes reports from South LA.
They marched the streets around Fred Roberts Recreation Center in South LA. This once-a-year walk is made up of grieving family members, like the relatives of Laura Sanchez, a mother of 5 killed in a drive-by shooting in 2007.
So from that, we have started this in her memory and in memory of all homicide victims.
Adela Barajas is Laura's sister-in-law. She reached out to the office of Council District 9 after the shooting to help spruce up the gang-infested neighborhood where Laura Sanchez and others have been killed. Council District 9 followed up by improving Fred Roberts Recreation Center, adding new play and exercise equipment, also youth programs.
It has turned into a community park, and it is only that we took youth from the ages of 10 and 11 and gave them something positive to do.
Barajas also co-founded a nonprofit group called Laura to benefit children of murdered parents. The group partnered with Council District 9 again to organize this walk with free health screenings, job placement, education, and homeless services on site. Council member Curran Price represents the area.
providing resources, letting folks know that we care, that there's resources available to assist. We want to help improve the quality of life in this community.
I mean, the outreach that we do is by youth inviting youth, community inviting community, victims inviting victims, and survivors. So anyone could do this, and our neighborhood should be like this every day.
To honor the memories of those we've lost. At Fred Roberts Recreation Center in South L.A., Gil Reyes for L.A. This Week.
The walk also commemorated the deaths of the three Fuentes brothers, ages 8, 9, and 10. Police say their father killed them in a murder-suicide attempt last September. While a new housing complex opens its doors to formerly homeless veterans, folks in Council District 2 come out for lunch with their councilmen, and a major makeover is being planned for Hollyhock House at Barnsdall Park. All these stories in City Beat. Mayor Eric Garcetti joined Senate President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon, Councilmember Gil Cedillo, and other community leaders for the grand opening of The Six, a new affordable housing development serving formerly homeless veterans in Los Angeles. Located in MacArthur Park, The Six offers 52 units and is the Skid Row Housing Trust's first development outside downtown LA, focusing specifically on veterans.
I'm grateful to have my own place. I went from homeless to home owner.
We want you to know you're home, and we are part of your family. We look out for each other, we'll look out for you, and you look out for us.
Councilman Paul Krikorian recently hosted Lunch with Paul at Mexican Grill Q Rico's on Victory Boulevard to provide an opportunity for community members to meet their neighbors and learn about community issues. Krikorian also said the gathering helps boost support for small businesses and job creation in his district.
Now that they've tasted his tacos, they'll come back.
LA City Council member Mitch O'Farrell recently announced a major restoration project at Barnsdall Park's Residence A, the dilapidated and shuttered guest house for the historic Frank Lloyd Wright-designed Hollyhock House, which is also owned by the city. O'Farrell has identified close to $2 million in funding from Community Redevelopment Excess Bond proceeds. Total cost of the restoration project is estimated at $3.2 million. O'Farrell says restoration projects like these are important because they uplift our spirits.
Just imagine, once this is restored, how that's going to inspire countless people, young people, into a life of art and architecture and appreciation of, historic resources and valuing what we have.
Improvements at 8 bus stops along North Broadway in Solano Canyon and Chinatown have been completed. This project, funded by a Metro Call grant, was a collaboration of the Office of Councilmember Gil Cedillo, Bureaus of Street Services and Street Lighting, and the communities of Solano Canyon and Chinatown. Improvements include installations of sidewalk bump outs, bus shelters, bus benches, bike racks, safety lights, trees, access ramps, and high visibility crosswalks. 2 bronze plaques were also installed, highlighting the history of the Solano Canyon community. While high school students put their projects to the test for a shot at the national title, not to mention high-paying careers. Gil Reyes reports from Cal State LA.
5 kilograms, 10 kilograms.
How much weight can this bridge take? We're about to find out as the weights and the odds of holding up are stacked against it.
16, 18, 20, 18 kilograms.
It was definitely hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was fun though, right?
Oh, it was definitely fun. Yeah. A lot of fun.
10 kilograms. 10 kilograms.
Another tough break at LA's 15th annual high school bridge building competition. Teams from 8 different high schools compete to see whose bridge can withstand the most weight before breaking.
It could take just an extra kilogram of pressure to make it all snap. This event, hosted by the Bureau of Engineering every year, aims to recruit more young people into the field of engineering to replace an increasingly retiring workforce.
We're at the point in our city's workforce life cycle that there is a need for succession planning. We need to develop the new batch of engineering professionals, gender-wise, diversity-wise, so that we can build the city of the future.
Plans that include a new 6th Street Bridge, The largest bridge renovation project in LA history is expected to be completed in 2019. As LA's transportation infrastructure grows, more people will be needed for high-paying jobs designing the bridges of tomorrow.
I didn't want to have the basic job of like being in a desk and doing work all day. So this opens a new light for me because it shows I could be as creative as possible.
Bureau of Engineering staffers mentored the kids during weeks of preparation. The students learned about theory, physics,
and a lot about teamwork and how you can always work with the people you want. And I kind of learned how to get along with other people and just make friends.
The top 2 finishers now head to the national competition in Chicago. At Cal State LA, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Congratulations to the winner. Los Angeles High School and Lewis Continuation School took second place. They're headed to the national finals this month. While the American Academy of Pediatrics says the majority of kids involved in bicycle accidents are not wearing safety helmets, increasing the risk of brain injuries in children. As Gil Reyes reports, officers hope a more visual approach will help them learn their lesson.
3.
Here's what could happen to your skull if you don't wear a bicycle helmet. Your head cracked open on the cement after a nasty fall. Now let's see when your head's protected. See, no splatter. LAPD officers hope this lesson stressing the importance of wearing helmets sinks in.
But now that I know that I have to have a helmet, I can be safe while riding a bicycle or skateboard.
Norma Martinez is among the students taking part in this Walk, Ride, and Roll safety seminar. It's happening in partnership with the group Safe Moves at LeConte Middle School in Hollywood.
Well, LeConte has a skateboard park that the after-school students use, and a lot of them aren't wearing helmets, and we thought this was a perfect opportunity to stress how important helmets are when you're riding your bike and skateboard. And with all the media attention on concussions that football players are suffering, we want to bring attention back to what kids are suffering from traumatic head injury, death, and brain injury because they're not wearing a bicycle helmet.
California law says kids under 18 must wear helmets when biking or skating.
I wear the helmet even though legally I don't have to wear the helmet, but I wear the helmet because you never know what's going to happen.
It could save your life. So we encourage every single one of you to please wear a helmet.
So don't be a melon head. Protect your noggin. In Hollywood, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The Institute for Highway Safety says helmet use can reduce the risk of head injuries by 85%. While Ciclavia rolls into 6 South LA neighborhoods, if you love everything pickled and brined, check out the Pickle Party at Grand Central Market and enjoy your favorite classic movies under the stars. All this in this week's Things to Do. For the first time, Ciclavia will connect 6 communities in Southeast Los Angeles with an Open Streets event on May 15th. The communities of Huntington Park, Walnut Park, Southgate, Florence, Firestone, Linwood, and Watts will host the country's largest Open Streets event. Streets will be closed to cars and open for cyclists, pedestrians, runners, and skaters to use as a recreational space with nearly 10 miles of car-free streets. This Ciclavia is sure to be a great one with tons of music and shows planned at every hub. Hop on your bike on Sunday, May 15th. The free event goes from 9 to 4 p.m. For more, visit ciclavia.org. The first ever Grand Central Market Pickle Party will be a one-day edible exploration of all things pickled, brined, and fermented. The GCM Pickle Party will introduce visitors to the wide world of pickles and explore the cultural diversity of pickling traditions from around the globe. Market vendors will create one-time hashtag flash sale menu items based on pickled ingredients, and visitors will learn to pickle at chef demonstrations while also rolling up their sleeves to make sauerkraut alongside the country's premier fermenter. The public is invited to join the day-long kraut mob on Sunday, May 15th at Grand Central Market, located at 317 South Broadway from 10 to 5 p.m. For details, visit grandcentralmarket.com. It isn't summer in LA until the first cemetery screening brings hordes of movie lovers to Hollywood Forever, toting folding chairs, picnic blankets, and snacks. Cinespia brings classic cult favors to the hallowed resting place of such Hollywood greats as Rudolph Valentino and Bugsy Siegel. Moviegoers can enjoy DJ sets, dance parties, sleepovers, and more. It's the perfect summer experience under the stars in one of the best film venues in the city. On Saturday, May 14th, go back in time with Jeff Spicoli for a screening of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Doors open at 6 and show begins at 8:30. For more, visit cinespia.org. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
I'm Cindy, and I'm in Little Tokyo, and you're watching Channel 35, Your City, Your Channel.
Good morning, good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 10th. Want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bond, and Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue Wesson. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Bonin moves. Buscaino seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Krikorian moves. O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday and time for the flag salute.
Okay, why don't we all rise? We'll be led today by Mr. Mitch O'Farrell in our flag salute.
Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Let's go through the agenda.
Mr. President, there's a request to continue item 1G for 60 days to July 1. Further, the Department of Building and Safety recommends that the following items be received and filed. 1A, O, Q, and R, as the liens have been paid in full. 1E, as the property has been determined to be an owner-occupied single-family dwelling and exempt from lien processing. Additionally, the Department recommends that the following lien amounts be reduced as the liens have been partially paid. 1C to $2,548.25, 1D to $1,038.80, and 1E to $1,417.
Okay, so without objection, that will be the order. Continue.
Item 1 is an item notice for public hearing, and there are cards.
Okay, continue.
Items 2 through 6 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, specials members. Mr. Fuentes?
Number 6.
6. Let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. Buscaino? Forthwith on 4. Let's continue.
Items 7 through 16 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, these items are now before this body. Cards?
Yes, there are cards on all items except for 7 and 15.
Okay, let's vote on 7 and 15. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That brings us where?
Mr. President, that takes us to items called special or general public comment.
Okay. Item 10. Ms. Ramirez, item 10.
Thank you very much. First of all, this is the installation of the name of Angelica Maria on Hollywood Walk of Fame. Beautiful Angelica Maria is one of the roaring beauty actresses of Mexico back in the heydays. She is one that does traditional Mexican, tasteful movie dramas that taught you right from wrong, the elegance and beauty of Mexico, what Mexico used to be. Angelica Maria portrayed herself as a beautiful Mexican lady, hardworking, diligent, supporting her husband, working for the community and beautifying Mexico. With laughter, songs, and dances, mariachi. She was just a joy, her sparkling eyes and her beautiful smile. She's just the epitome of classic beauty. And so I congratulate the City Hall and everyone for endearing us with this beautiful Mexican actress who will have her star. And again, I can't even believe that we are going to acknowledge her because she again highlights the beauty of Mexico. And if any of you want to learn about Mexico, you don't learn it from the gangbangers and the wetbacks.
Stay on the subject.
You learn it from these old, beautiful, classic movies that really taught you not only the hardship of Mexico, the triumphs of Mexico, the survivals of Mexico, but how to stand up strong and fight for justice, liberty, and freedom. And that's what a Mexican woman back then knew and trained her children. And they also trained you how to eat chile. At 3 years old, they start teaching you how to eat jalapeno. And believe me, that's what Angelica Maria also taught in her movies. If you ever saw her movies, Wesson, you would know a little bit about Mexico. None of this wetback or gangbanging shit.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's prepare to vote on the item. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Item 12, Mr. Walsh. Item 12.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is number 12. This is opposition, which would expand. This is vote for opposition to a state legislative program from Mr. Mendoza, that would expand the Metro Board of Directors to 16 members by adding 2 voting members who would be appointed by the Speaker of the State Assembly and the State Senate Committee on Rules. 100% in favor of this. Let's have someone from Sacramento to poke their nose into the Krikorian corruption on the MTA board. We need 2 extra members. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, let's move to item 6. Mr. Fuentes, it's my understanding that you're prepared to just move forward on the vote. Okay, so on item 6, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we'll move to item 8. Mr. Walsh, item 8, followed by Ms. Ramirez. On item 8, please come forward.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. This regards legislation to allocate additional funding to the California State University system. Yes, and we think that part of the money must be spent to fight homophobia, which Bonin accepts and O'Farrell accepts. We need gender-neutral bathrooms at every college campus. You're screaming and yelling at North Carolina. You're worse. You have 0 gender-neutral bathrooms, and North Carolina has 0 gender-neutral bathrooms. We want to be able to urinate and defecate any place
Mr. President,
we
this is not,
want to.
He's not
Stay on the subject.
HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, Ms. Ramirez.
Thank you. Here comes the wetbacks and the gangbangers. Please
No,
be careful.
stay on the subject.
Yes,
Stay
I'm
on the
staying
subject.
on the subject. God dang it, I'm staying on the subject. Hey, listen. I just want to let you know here. You've got here the Housing Committee that says a process for granting legal status to currently existing unapproved dwelling units in multiple family
Wrong
buildings.
item. You're not on the subject. Thank you very much. That's not the subject. That's not the subject. Okay, your time's expired. Let's prepare to vote, members. No, you're disrupting the meeting now. Let us prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now we'll move to item 9. Mr. Walsh, Ms. Ramirez, this is item 9. Item 9, please stay on the subject. Item 9. Ms. Ramirez passed. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This concerns the installation of the name Pitbull, P-I-T-B-U-L-L, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We are 100% in favor of this. We want more animals on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And what's most important about Pitbull is that when you have the ceremony, please invite Pitbull to take a crap on Donald Trump's star.
Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Ms. Ramirez and Ms. McAllister, item 14, please come forward. Item 14.
Stay on the subject, Herb Wesson. Put all developers and the HCLDLA, including but not limited to the geriatric, wealthy, unethical schmuck Eli Broad, who may also be in cahoots with other developers in gang stalking against innocent victims like me, because they are constantly renting out low-income and affordable housings to only racist, hate-mongering wetbacks and Chango Latino pigs and thieves who eventually bring down the property value. And again, you see these geriatric, wealthy, unethical business developers and schmucks who have made a sacred covenant with these Latino cartels to provide housing to all wetbacks, all Chango Latino gangbangers and wetbacks, for the safety and protection of their businesses and to bring in stolen merchandise from the LA ports. And again, we as Americans, now all of middle-class America is unemployed and now on the streets, including our dearly beloved United States military veterans. How can that possibly be? Stop subsidizing, stop renting to low-income wetbacks because they're low-income and they're poor. They are poor because they got bad karma. They are poor because they are bad karma. So again, and they bring down property value and everything becomes low income and unaffordable housing. So again, put these wetbacks where they belong, back in where they came from. That's why we're voting for Donald Trump. Deport these wetbacks and gangbangers, napalm their asses, and get them out of here.
She is not talking about this housing.
Thank you. You're off the subject. Miss McAllister, you're disrupting the meeting because you're off the subject. Miss McAllister, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council. I'm against, I oppose item 14. I see we're throwing more money into housing. Ever since I came here, you're starting to put money everywhere, and people are still on the street. I think some of this money is going in your pockets. Now, you want $540,000 for 27 housing assets. Where? Where are the housing assets? Who's going to be living in it, in these housing units? We have a problem with illegal aliens living in the housing units. That's why we have black and white people living on the street. When I mention the words illegal aliens, everybody gets upset because that's where your bread and butter is. I don't care how much money we throw into this homeless problem. If you don't get a stipulation that illegal aliens cannot live in affordable government-subsidized housing, we're going to have millions and millions more Americans on the street. Nobody addresses that. I go to the housing meetings, they say nothing about illegals living in affordable housing. We have them coming into this chamber complaining. The nerve that you let illegal aliens come in here, don't speak a word of English, talking about where they live and they're having problems. We must address this. All of this homelessness happened under the Democrats. I'm asking Americans to vote Republican, not just Republican, vote issues. Vote issues, okay? And the issue is Donald Trump is going to get these illegals out of this nation.
Stay on this subject.
Now, here's another thing. $540,000, that's too much money. That's too much money, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But reduce that to about $20,000. That's all you need, a couple of people. And as far as these Jews, we got 500 Jew lawyers.
Thank you.
And we're going to address that.
Let's prepare to vote on the item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, we're going to move to item 16. I have Miss Pearman and Mr. Walsh, item 16. Ms. Ramirez is out of time. Ms. Pearman, please come forward, item 16.
It shows again here, number 16, that people are, it's dangerous out there because people can't defend themselves and have the right to carry, so that people get shot. So they would think twice about shooting people if they thought that that people can possibly shoot back. So that's why I believe very strongly in the Second Amendment rights, and that's why Donald Trump believes in the Second Amendment rights. And second of all, we're not going to be able to get stitches. We're not going to be able to find these things out because these people, nobody's going to want to call in and tell what they know, because their whole family's going to get killed. They're going to get killed, and maybe someone that they love is going to get killed. So you're not going to get rewards, because we need to try to find out how to get rid of this done in the first place and how people can have the right to defend themselves. So I'm just going to leave it down to a minute. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Another phony $50,000 reward. You haven't, I think you've given out one reward in the past 20 years. Look, everybody knows it's suicide to go to the cops. The crooked cops tell the gangs, and the gangs murder you. You cannot. Snitches get stitches. I'm going to wear my shirt with a bloody knife on it. Snitches get stitches. Check it out. Go right now to Snitches Get Stitches and see. There are buttons. There are also, you can buy everything. Snitches Get Stitches, or they get their throat slit. It's a joke. It's a joke on these victims. It's a joke on Mr. Beltran's family. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, thank you. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, let us continue. Item 11, Ms. McAllister. Mr. Walsh, item 11. Ms. Pearman.
Okay, this is about the signatures. I was fortunate enough to meet a man this weekend who had the city's petitions, and we talked for about 20 minutes. He had a petition for youth who are locked up. The city also has a petition circulating the city for taxes, putting that on the ballot to raise taxes for homelessness. This is ridiculous. I saw the petition. This is ridiculous. You want more money, but you haven't said a word about the illegal aliens. And how much of that money is going to go in the pockets of these 500 Jewish lawyers? We're going to get these Jews out of the legal department. We need about 100 lawyers. That's all we need. Now, $185,000. That is too much. I saw the man. I asked him how much is he getting paid? $3 a signature. Come on now. You got $105,000 to pay these people $3 each. We don't need that much money. And I asked him how many signatures you need. About 60,000. It don't add up. Quit padding these different funds you're doing. It doesn't add up. He said about 60,000, 70,000 signatures, and they get $3. It was $1, and he said you guys gave him a raise. Praise God. Gave him a raise to $3. And then you have $80,000 for office and administrative expense. That's too much money. What do you have to do? I know about running for office, okay, out of Chicago. There are people who sit and they randomly verify some of the signatures to make sure people live at those addresses. That's not $80,000. It takes about a week. So come on, guys. I look at numbers because I'm a math teacher. I see a lot of waste, and we need to stop this mess. And until you use the word, now there's a difference between a person who comes into this country under 18-wheeler and one that waits 5 years. Okay, so we call them illegal aliens.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walsh, followed by Ms. Pearman and Mr. Previn.
John Walsh at J. Walsh Confidential. Take a good look at this, Wesson and Krikorian. This is the funding for one ballot petition. One single ballot. Do they count all the ballots? No, random. They're not going to count more than 300 or 400 ballots at random. How much is it going to cost? Look at it right here. $185,000 salary general, another $105,000 as needed, and an $80,000. They're going to spend $250,000 over that to check out a few signatures. It's about $50 a signature that they're going to be checking these out. That's what we have here. These scumbags up here, all of you scumbags up here, with maybe Cedillo's exception, are going to vote for this because who's going to get these as-needed jobs? Their friends. Let's see the signature. Okay, give me $10. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, Ms. Pearman, followed by Mr. Previn.
Yeah, this is another shame of wasteful spending. Spending all that money to see a small amount of those affordable housing initiative petitions. And, of course, affordable housing is done to house all those illegal aliens. So, and two, I'm not sure which ones they're going to, whose petitions are checking, whether they have certain people that will get dumped on, and they'll only check those people who are poor, who are doing petitions. So, I don't trust how they were going to do it, but if it's someone that they like, they won't check their petitions for affordable housing. Of course, affordable housing is done to house all these illegal aliens or the American citizens can't get housing. And in the meantime, we're wasting a lot of money doing this when we can take care of people. And, so I don't like the random verification of signatures because it just seems to me you're just giving a lot of these people a lot of money over these salaries general, so that unfortunately I went past a minute, so I'm going to have to continue talking. So salaries is needed. Certain people that they have that are doing quite well already, they're going to be getting a lot of money. They're going to give them a lot of money so they can check out a small amount. I totally agree with John Walsh, and I totally agree with our speakers ahead about the illegal aliens. They they want to make it so it's easier
Stay on
to
the
get.
Subject.
The verification of signatures. I think you're wasting your time. You're just going to be checking a small amount and overspending, and that's why our city is in such troubles. Thank you.
Mr. Previn.
Yes, good morning, Council President Wesson and City Council. It is Eric Previn from CD2. Now, this one emerged from the Rules and Election and Intergovernmental Committee, which is run by you, sir. You're the chair of that one. And Mr. Krikorian, who has taken a large role in the neighborhood councils as well, is seconding a motion relative to the funding of this additional, some funding to make sure that the signature verification process is completely in order and funded properly. We're going to be transferring a little bit of money this way and that. But this is really making sure that the city clerk, who typically verifies signatures on various proposals and such, has what she needs to do the job correctly. Now, obviously, signature verification cannot be fungible. It has to be done properly and clearly. And if, for example, a signature is affixed that is not the appropriate signature that matches to the name, like in the case of James Kellum, who was signed, in fact, by a woman named Jane Drucker in a recent Studio City Neighborhood Council election kerfuffle that, by the way, you can read in the LA Times now, has been overturned, that decision. No, back on signature, sir, I realize. But the point is that this is a very, very important process. And any sanctioning or moving forward based on fraudulent signatures is obviously an example of somebody breaking the rule or the law, and that has to be followed up on. And obviously, I'm requesting that happen. I feel very badly that anyone would agree to permit that kind of activity. I think it's inappropriate. And I would ask that the city of Los Angeles step forward at the appropriate time and make amends for that conduct and come out and own it upright.
Stay on the subject, Mr. Previn. You're sliding off of it.
No, I like to be on subject. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a nice morning.
All right, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
We'll move to item 13. Mr. Watkins, Ms. Hutt, William Taylor, please come forward.
Good morning, council people. I'm Tim Watkins from the Watts Labor Community Action Committee, and in January of 2016, I launched what's called the Better Watts Initiative for environmental justice. And I'm looking at the effects of air, soil, and water that have been contaminated and how that affects quality of life for the residents of our community. And so with my focus on water, I've been doing a citizen science project gathering donors bring water to me in bottles that they've run from their tap They label the bottle with the time and date, address, and this was just the first response from the citizens. So I have water that shows varying colors, and I have one of particular concern that we're trying to validate because this came from 103rd and Calmia, right across the street from Jordan Downs. And I'm told that there are many resident neighbors that have the same problem, and they're all moving to get water filtration devices on their homes. And I think that that's an inappropriate response to a problem that should be resolved from the municipal standpoint. I don't know the source of this water, and so even though I don't have 2 bottles to show you, honestly, this came from a single resident that's working now to bring additional bottles from neighbors. I think that as big as this problem is, all over California, we hear that there are issues with violations, with malfunctions, and so on. But we've got to do a better job at the municipal level of making sure that the resources are there, not only to deliver safe water from whatever its source is, but through a system that's safe to users that have safe infrastructure, whether that's through handy worker programs or whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I could get Ms. Hutt. Good to see you, Heather.
Good morning, President Wesson and council members. My name is Heather Hutt, and I'm District Director for Senator Isidore Hall III, who represents the 35th District, which includes South Bay City, South Los Angeles, San Pedro, Watts, Willowbrook, and Wilmington. Senator Hall is supportive of the motion by Council Members Harris, Dawson, and Buscaino to ensure that the community of Watts and South Los Angeles have access to safe, reliable, and clean water. This past Saturday, Senator Hall hosted a tour and town hall with over 100 residents to discuss environmental concerns in the neighborhood. Senator Hall was shocked at the poor quality of the municipal water supply in Watts. It's unacceptable for any community in Los Angeles to allow for their residents to have to rely on bottled water because the tap water is potentially unsafe. Council members, it's time to act. Senator Hall respectfully requests your support of this motion and any further necessary actions to ensure that Watts residents have access to clean drinking water. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, council members. This is my first time before you, and I'm going to take this as a real educational moment from what I've heard earlier. But I want to be respectful and give thanks to my representative, Mr. Buscaino, for helping me to navigate through this issue. And the issue is about the clean water in Watts. DWP gave a letter out 4 months late of the reporting date that the state board says they should report. When I dug into it, and I had to do it on my own, I found out that there was a 14-page citation issued to the district. I yesterday called all of the schools in my area that are serviced by the 99th Street well. Out of about 15 schools that I called, only 5 or 6 knew of the notice, and only one that I know of is still giving the children bottled water. Me personally, my wife is on dialysis 10 hours a night. I have a 2-month-old grandson in my home. And we don't drink the water, but we do bathe with it. And the notice that was sent out was not clear, and when I spoke to representatives, they were not clear. Please, let's get them in here so that we can talk to them and find out what really happened, because when you get a 14-page citation and you're only charged $1,000 a day, I don't think that's a big enough slap on the hand. I really don't. And for people having to drink the water in that area, me included, and use it, it's not fair. I'm paying for something with poor quality, and they endangered, in my opinion, public safety and health by denying what happened. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have Roxana Garcia?
Good morning. My name is Roxana, and I'm a field representative for Assemblymember Mike Gibson. First, I would like to start off by thanking Councilmember Harris Dawson for calling of a full report of the January pump malfunction at the 99th Street Wells Water. We also represent that area. Just wanted to follow up with Ms. Heather Hutt with the, we were also present there on Saturday when we did the Environmental Justice Town Hall, and we just wanted to state that these types of events that are happening, they shouldn't be happening, first of all. And the contaminated water in Watts and surrounding areas, it's imperative for us to make sure that we are assuring the best drinkable water for the communities for which are more susceptible for environmental racism. We need to stand up for the communities of color and for those who are disadvantaged. All the citizens of the great state of California deserve the same drinking water, and those who live in the west side of Los Angeles and communities like Brentwood and Beverly Hills deserve the same drinking water as those who live in Watts. I am here today to make sure that we hold our public agencies accountable, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, so Mr. Buscaino? Or do you want to go with Mr. Harris-Dawson first?
Yes, I'll have the maker of the motion kick it off, if you don't mind, Mr. President.
Mr. Harris-Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to those who came to testify, and thank you for Mr. Buscaino for helping us with this motion. In mid-April, my office received a notification from the Department of Water and Power that there had been a malfunction at one of the wells that services Council Districts 8 and 15 on the south side of our district. We were a bit alarmed because the malfunction happened in January, and we just received a notification in April. And so today we've asked some representatives from DWP to join us and give us an explanation. In the meantime, between the time Councilmember Buscaino and I made this motion, there was a hearing on Saturday that our Assemblyman and our Senator attended where residents bought bottles of water. This one's from 9330 Success Avenue in Watts, where they said this is what's coming out of their tap water. Perhaps it's related, perhaps it's not, but today we were asking to get as much of an explanation as we can, and to also ask DWP to come back with the questions that can't be answered at this time. So we're asking Marty Adams, the Senior Assistant General Manager, and Albert Gastelum, the Director of Water Quality.
So maybe before we start, though, I will recognize Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Harris-Dawson, for your partnership on this critical issue. Colleagues, water is the most precious resource, and whenever there's a threat to water quality, there is a threat of public health. Let me be clear. We've learned a lot of failed leadership in Flint, Michigan, but we are no Flint, Michigan. I'm happy to see our community come forward, our partners in the state government. Mr. Watkins, Mr. Taylor, thank you for your presence here in City Hall. And perhaps if I can have DWP in front of us, I want to know, while I know this issue has been taken care of, we'd like to know how this incident could have been prevented in the first place, what was the root cause of the malfunction, and what action is the DWP taking now to ensure that this doesn't happen again? And lastly, just give us the reason why the delay in the notification to the community. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Marty Adams from the Water System. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the water you have in the bottles there and such is completely unacceptable to be served to any of our customers, and we take this issue very seriously. There are actually two issues going on. The first is in regards to what the motion was about with the chlorination failure, and the second issue is about the cloudy water and the rusty water that we're seeing. They're in the same part of town, but they are unrelated, but I would like to address them both. In mid-January, on January 15th, we had a failure of a chlorine feed pump that supplies chlorine to the water coming from our 99th Street wells. These are the wells that feed the Watts and Green Meadows area of town, and it's somewhat kind of a subsystem to the east side of the main downtown Los Angeles system. Those wells have, along with other wells and other agencies, are historically slightly high in iron and other natural metals just naturally occurring from the soil. In January, we had a chlorine feed pump go out. That station is monitored from a central monitoring location along with the rest of our water quality facilities. Because of the way our alarm system was set up, there was the operator on charge at the time missed the alarm when it first came in. And the way the chlorine, the regulations work for what's called the groundwater rule is that if there's a treatment failure on the groundwater system, because the groundwater is generally regarded to be clean in and of itself, and the groundwater, the requirements for disinfection are only relatively new in the last several years, there's a 4-hour span allowed to get that chlorination back up and running. So in this case, the alarm was not recognized immediately. There was a 2 to 3 hour delay in recognizing the alarm. The investigation is just about complete as to why that occurred and how it got missed. I can tell you from control systems, there are a lot of alarms that come in. Sometimes they're as simple as an intrusion alarm from an operator entering your facility and other things. And so we are working to differentiate the alarms so that ones that are more important than others are somehow better highlighted. When the alarm was recognized, we called out a treatment operator. The treatment operator arrived just after 4 hours on site, which would have been close to what was allowed by the law. But when he restarted the chlorine pump and put a backup pump in service, it took about an hour to an hour and a half to get the chlorine residual back up to the level. And so whereas the law would allow us for a 4-hour lapse without any detriment to water quality, in this case it took about 6 hours to get this back up and running. So this was an isolated incident in a system the size of ours. Things break and fail from time to time. The key is to be able to respond. So this was actually a response failure on our part. Though in terms of correcting this, we are reviewing all the protocols with the operators to make sure that the alarms are properly addressed in terms of priority order. We're also working to highlight those alarms with audible signals, and also working on a text function that they're not addressed in a certain amount of time, that a message can be remotely sent to a higher level operator so that we have better redundancy in place. But at some point, there is a human interface between electronic alarms coming in at a central monitoring station, someone reading that alarm and calling someone, in this case from home, dispatching them. That person was responsive, showed up in a matter of within less than half an hour from home on site to bring the chlorination station back up and running. So the letter, now the delay for the letter is, the other thing is that this was not reported up the chain. We're trying to determine why it was not reported as an incident outside the 4-hour window. This is a cause for the delay in notification. So we did not actually find out about it until we did an audit of our water, or we do a regular monthly audit of our water quality reporting that we send to the state. And it's at that point that our scientists were looking at the water quality data and noticed this lapse that exceeded the 4-hour allowance. So at that point, we worked with the state health department and the Department of Drinking Water, and we they provide language that must be sent within a certain time, and strict guidelines for where and how we actually disclose the information. It's a test between trying not to overly alarm the public because subsequent monitoring of the system determined that there were no actual water quality problems from this, but it was a process failure, and we do owe it to the public to report a process failure properly, so they're aware of that.
So my understanding is, although the chlorination system failed, yes, over 3 or 4 hours?
It actually went down for 6 hours.
So 6 hours.
4 hours is, and every kind of water is different. If it happened with surface water, it'd be a 15-minute allowance. With groundwater, because the condition's very different, there's a 4-hour window that is allowed for it to be restarted.
During that time period, was the water safe to drink during that time period?
Yes, it was.
It was safe to drink during that time period.
We monitored that area regularly, and in subsequent monitoring, it passed all the testing.
So my understanding, the delay was, obviously, you were aware of the alarm. You sent notification to state agencies, scientists, to ensure that that was a legit alarm. And at that point, when it was known that it was a legitimate alarm, that's when he sent notification to the community.
Yes, and actually what we would do is, so in that case, when the alarm was discovered, and somehow amongst the other alarms that had happened when it was discovered, we immediately send out one of our own personnel to go out and to inspect, because we want to make sure that we get out there as quickly as we can. Normally we would have been there much quicker than that, and would have started a backup pump, and would have been within the time frame, and there would have been no issue. So this is really a timing issue in terms of the duration that it took us to respond to the issue.
At what point does the water become unsafe to drink when the system fails? Is chlorination?
In theory,
system fails.
So all water needs to be disinfected. Groundwater was not required to be disinfected in and of itself until the last several years. And actually, the state formally adopted our groundwater treatment plan, our disinfection plan, just about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And so prior to that point, we always put a disinfectant in the water so that as it traveled throughout the pipes, there would be no chance for bacterial growth in the pipes, or if there's a pipeline break or something happened, there'd be protection. That's different than surface water, where the disinfectant has to be there all the time because you're worried about contamination from bacteria and that sort of thing. In the groundwater, they're generally not regarded to be that bacterial issue going on. So this is it's a change in the regulations in the last few years regarding groundwater.
And the current condition of the well today on 99th Street, where is it at today?
So the wells are in service now, and I'll get to the second issue about the rusty water. But the wells are currently in service. They've been operating without a problem since this pump was replaced or repaired, and they would normally continue to operate that way. So this issue not either the wells themselves, but rather the disinfection of the well water as it went into the system.
How often does the well get serviced?
We're down there at least once a week at that facility, maybe more often, and we are actually making more frequent visits now to make sure the system is up and running. I might mention also that that this is one of the last pockets of town to convert to chloramines. The reason it remains on chlorine now is because we had a number of facilities to build, and because it has somewhat of its own independent water supply, it was not affected by the rest of the system converting to chloramines. That project just was awarded by our board. Will start, I believe, in June in construction. And that will, when we convert to chloramines in that system, we will also upgrade the entire treatment and monitoring system that services that area.
Thank you so much.
So before you move to the rusty water, I wanted to drill down on the notification. Could you shed a little bit more light on how that sort of gap happened? How often that kind of gap happens in the system? Is this typical in other parts of the system that there's a two and a half month gap in the time people are notified from it happening?
This is not typical and not acceptable. So normally in our morning reports, an incident like this would have been reported immediately in the morning, and we would have reported to the health department immediately and had action, subsequently notification to the public right away. In this case, it was an alarm that was addressed, but did not get reported in the morning as it goes up the chain of command. So it was not discovered downtown until we were reviewing the records, and the end-of-month records probably coming half a month or more later. So as soon as we found those records that we had a gap in treatment, we contacted the health department immediately and said, how do we handle this? Because every case like this, they give guidance and prescribe exactly what we do as a measure to follow up. But it was not normal to not have something reported. So there are two failures. One is the failure to react in time. The other is the failure to make note of it, to let the managers know to take action. So it is not normal.
And so an alarm triggers when this happens, and what's the main reason for such an alarm? Because it sounds like there's no problem with the water necessarily, but an alarm sounds. And so what is that alarm supposed to signify to you all?
So the alarm in this case was a low chlorine residual alarm. So we actually have chlorine analyzers on everywhere that we have treatment and also throughout the system. And so when the residual goes above, for instance, we have a pump that overfeeds because we don't want to put highly chlorinated water out, or a pump that underfeeds, then we get an alarm based on the chlorine residual. So at the time the alarm sounds, the operator may not know exactly what the cause of it is, but he'll know that there is a problem with the dosage. And so when the person gets there, then they'll troubleshoot and analyze what exactly it is. In this case, he brought in a backup pump.
Excellent, thank you. So now to the cloudy water. So we have 4 schools, one in Council District 15, one in Council District 8, and 2 in the county, where the school has taken the step to turn the water off completely and bring in bottled water. And we're getting varying reports of water that's cloudy at different levels. Can you talk about that for a second and what you all's plan to get in front of that is?
Yes. So the cloudy water issue, although in the same area of town, is not related to the chlorine going down at that time. The first issue we had recently regarding cloudy water, in February, there was a knocked off fire hydrant, and that was in the Jordan Downs area. And typically, in most areas of town, when you have a knocked off fire hydrant, you have extremely high flows. And if there's any sediment in the pipe, as a result of the high velocities, it stirs that sediment up. And so a lot of times you have cloudy water. that was the first indication. We did go out and check the system because we had quite a few calls following that incident, and typically the cloudiness flushes out or settles out. We did then, beginning a week ago Thursday, we were notified by LA Unified School District about the problem at initially 1 school, then 2 schools, and then 4 schools. And so it was a week ago Thursday, they called and said they had the cloudy water. So this is the first time that has been reported to us of the water of that nature. We did test the system on Friday. And then, although we didn't see the cloudiness at the time, and one of the problems with cloudy water is that it's intermittent. And so sometimes it'll be something that'll be high flow, it'll stir up the water, and then it'll settle back down. So we did test it on Friday, and then last Monday, so the 2nd, we did report back that the water did meet all water quality standards, but yet we still had this issue with this intermittent color. Right. At that point, we were also told by the school district that they were providing bottled water, and I think we found out over the last weekend that they were providing bottled water, and so we sought to make some additional water supply available as well. The source of the cloudy water, when we used to have unlined pipes, there was a lot of cloudy water in the system. Every time we had a high flow, we'd have rusty-looking water. Then we did a cement and mortar lining project, the largest of its kind in the world, which provided cement lining on the inside of the pipes that were older pipes. And that generally remedied that situation. At that point, going back to the early 2000s, we actually suspended what we had to be doing a regular flushing program because there was no longer this sediment built up in the pipes. But we do recognize now that there's probably quite a bit of sediment built up in the area of Watts and Green Meadows. There's 2 issues. One is we don't know where the sediment's coming from. There's a possibility that we are getting additional iron out of the wells, and we're looking at it to see if that is a source that needs to be shut off and if we need to do any additional treatment there. But there's also the possibility that the sediment could be coming from rust off of pipelines, and there's also probably some contribution from older home plumbing, especially galvanized plumbing. Right now, we are throwing the full force of the water system behind this issue. Beginning today, we are going to start flushing all the pipelines. We have not flushed that area in a long time. Most of that area has new pipe. We replumbed most of this area in the 1980s and 90s. There are some areas that have not been replumbed yet, but generally that area has newer pipe than most of the rest of the city, but it does apparently have a lot of sediment that needs to get out. So we are going to do an aggressive flushing program. It'll take many weeks. We're starting toward the source today. We will be notifying all the residents because if we were flushing their block, during the course of the flushing, there may be some cloudy water, but we will flush all the sediments out, and we're not going to stop until the problem's resolved. And then we're also going to try to determine exactly what the source of that sediment is.
And over what time period do you think that process will happen?
Our distribution folks tell me it could take a month or longer. We're going to start at the source end to make sure that whatever is the highest point, we can push anything through because we don't want to start at the bottom and then bring more in. But we're looking for what the nature of the sediment is, analyzing what could be the potential source, and at the same time getting rid of it out of the system. This used to be something we did all the time in the water system, but since we finished cement lining our pipes, it's something that we do not see regularly now, but it's apparent from what we're seeing in the water. The fact that the bottle of water is still cloudy and it's suspended tells us that the sediment is in suspension. It's not settling out. So that may also tell us that it has more to do with some iron out of the wells. We do have the longest running corrosion control program in the city in this area. And so we feed corrosion control materials there. We feed this also in West LA and Hollywood areas now, but the longest running system has been in this area of town to protect the water quality. So we want to make sure that if we do make source changes that we don't cause any other problems in the process.
Thank you. Excellent. Mr. Chair, if there's nothing else, we'd like to ask that this item be continued to the 24th of June. So we can hear back about the process that they just laid out.
Okay, that's fine. So what we'll do, we'll close the public comment, and we will continue this till June 24th. Thank you for your report. Mr. Rue for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today we have some guests, some honored guests today, and I'd love for the students at Our Mother of Good Counsel Elementary School to stand up.
Welcome.
You guys are on TV? You guys could go tell your parents you're on TV and say hi.
Wave.
I know, beautiful uniforms. And they are accompanied by their teacher, Miss Elizabeth Westendorf, parents and aides as well. And they saw your local government, your city council in action today. So it's not just what you read in books, but you could actually come out and see it in real life. So thank you for coming, and have a good day and have a good tour. And thanks for coming today.
And again, welcome. Give them one more shot. Can we put the camera on them one last time? Okay, last wave, guys. Wave to your parents. Okay, again, welcome to City Hall. All right, with that said, let's move on to item 1. On item 1, I'd like to bring forth, is there Andrew Karros, I believe, or Karras? Andrew, are you in the house? Please come down. Mr. Bonin.
While he's coming up, could I ask that we send item 12 forthwith?
Item 12 forthwith. Yes, sir.
And, Mr. President, as the speaker, before the speaker speaks, there are requests to continue for 30 days to June 8th, items 1B, C, F, J, and M.
Okay, so without objection. Yes, sir.
Yes, I spoke with the Department of Building and Safety employee, Mr. Christian, over here, and he has agreed to continue the matter for 30 days till June 8th.
Okay, then that's fine, without objection.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. McAllister, followed by Ms. Pearman.
Is this item 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have 18 liens today, and today is what, Tuesday? So I'm figuring you may have about 50 by the end of the week. That's too much. We've got to do something. First of all, anyone who has a lien, we bring them to City Hall and meet with some representatives, and we get the houses fixed for no cost. Secondly, we need buses of volunteers or workers who are paid to go to every street corner and pick up everybody who's living on the street. To have senior citizens sleeping in flower pots. I have a picture of one of them. We have seniors on the street. You got to be some cold-blooded people. Senior citizens, 60, 70, 80 years old, sleeping on the street, and you drive on by to your little house that you're trying to pay the house note on. We need to do something. We want everybody off the street. The mentally ill, we send them to some hospitals. Okay? But a lot of them are not mentally ill.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Ms. Pearman?
I totally agree with her. We need to be able to get people off the street, especially elderly, especially children. That's terrible. And in the meantime, we have all these liens. We got about 14 liens. Just makes it harder on the people who just want to, I know that what they do is they have small things that they pick on them, like the tree is over here, this wall's too high, and all these little violations that they come up with, and then they start fining them, and then when they don't pay, then they put late fees on top of that and late fees on top of that. In the meantime, people who really do the big things, the big corporations and the big businesses, when they do things that are wrong, they somehow get away with it. If, God forbid, somebody small does it, then they hit them a whole lot over. So we need to stop, try to find a way to get these liens paid for if these are legitimate, and try to work with these people. I'm glad you got 4 more that were off to another day. Hopefully they can come up with answers. Because I think people really do, if they owe, I really think they want to find a way to help pay for these items if they have a violation, and to pay the fair amount. And so that I think we should have a thing where they help pay for these, and so that we can get all these liens down. And I hope that God, one day we'll go over there and I come to a meeting and they'll say, where's the lien number? And they'll say there is no liens, because that will be the good idea when people will work with each other, and we don't even need to go in front of the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearman. Now let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, that brings us where?
To general public comment.
Okay, if I could get Miss Patricia McAllister and Mr. Walsh, followed by Ms. Ramirez. This is general public comment.
Yes, this is, we have the second largest school district in the country. And the fact that this city council has no dealings with the school system is ridiculous. Now, I'll tell you, I taught in the school system 7 years. I've had teachers come to me and say, Miss McAllister, can you tell me why I got $500 in deductions from my check from organizations I've never heard of? The school district is stealing so much, and they know that the teachers are afraid to speak up because they have this firing thing where they fire them and then hire them back. So they're afraid. And they're also, I'm a database person, and anybody out there listening, they'll know what I'm talking about. I have the database specifications. What the school district has done and the retirement, CalSTRS, they have gone around the database specifications and changed the actual data. That's illegal. I have proof of that. They are stealing billions, and I want this council to get involved with the city council because these teachers vote. They have millions of votes, and their children, relatives, and friends, so you need those voters.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, followed by Ms. Ramirez, followed by Ms. Pearman.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. Mr. Harris Dawson, you're surprised that when the poison water in Watts takes 3 months? It's because the color of your skin. Remember, if you're white, that's all right. If you're brown, you can stick around. But if you're black, stay back, stay back, stay back. Now, in a Jewish neighborhood, if the water was poisoned, it would have been fixed in 1 day. 1 goddamn day. Gender-neutral bathrooms, we need gender-neutral bathrooms starting tomorrow. Every bathroom in this building, public bathroom, will be gender neutral. We invite everybody to come down here and stage a pee-in because gender neutral bathrooms are politically correct. Now, if you don't want gender neutral bathrooms, when I finish speaking, contradict what I'm saying. Hollywood Highlands.
Thank you. Ms. Ramirez, followed by Ms. Pearman, followed by Mr. Previn.
Thank you. I'd like to report a violent and hostile gangbanger who is a reckless driver and was pulling up in the city hall and almost ran me over on Spring Street. His license plate number is 5, T as in Tom, D as in David, P as in Paul, 866, gray vehicle with tinted windows. Second of all, I have 2 shopping carts. I have the vandalized shopping cart that I like to donate to the city hall, done by gangbangers and wetbacks and all the other malicious bastards, and my new shopping cart. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I spend money, all my money, on replacing all my damaged property as a homeless gang stalking victim. And having said that, again, let us stop the violence. Let us stop the gang stalking. Let us stop and go after the predators who are putting all of us on the streets because we choose to expose the truth, and that is bring them and expose the corruption that is going here. They're in bed. There's been a covenant between the wetbacks and the gangbangers cartels and the city. Hoorah! Let's bring Donald Trump in.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pearman, Mr. Previn, and Dan.
Thank God for Donald Trump. He'll make America great again. We don't need more wasteful projects done by Obama that fuel the debt. One is changing the twin and $10 bill. I'm not against Harriet Tubman. I know all about the Underground Railroad helping runaway slaves. I'm against because of the cost. It costs billions to change the $10 and $20 bill, especially not to duplicate it. It doesn't help American blacks, and we need jobs, opportunities, better streets, better housing, better schooling. No Common Core. I can go on and on. Not changing the face or back of the bill. Who looks up information to find out who's on the dollar bill? Very little we'll learn about Harriet Tubman. It's not a learning tool. Obama doesn't care about American blacks. Hillary doesn't either. What have they done for him lately? Let's try Obama, Hillary, and Kerry for crimes they committed and do appropriate justice. Let Donald Trump get rid of Obamacare. Health care has gone down. Medicine, pain pills are changed, so it's not effective.
Thank you. So
Trump for...
Thank you, Donna. If I can get Mr. Previn, Dan, Miss Richardson, Jacqueline Richardson, please come forward. Yes, sir.
Good morning, council members. As you know, last week I had the #1 most viewed article on City Watch LA, No Kill, LA's Big Lie. This morning, my new article is the #1 most read on City Watch LA. It is called Duped Councilman Rationalizes the Mayor's Animal Bamboozle. It is already the #1 most read article on City Watch LA, published last night. And I'm going to give you this quote so that the people watching understand. Quote, "One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding the truth." On City Watch LA, look up Daniel Guss, G-U-S-S. The next article will be about Mr. Wesson's tortured relationship with the First Amendment, and also how Mr. Wesson sells poverty as a virtue.
Your time is up. Ms. Richardson, Jacqueline Richardson.
Downtown Los Angeles was going to be bombed September the 11th, 2001. A lot of us don't know that. The only reason downtown Los Angeles was not bombed was because the then mayor of New York said no planes in the United States should be allowed to take off, nor should any be landed. They were going to bomb downtown Los Angeles, Boston, Massachusetts, the White House. I don't know about CIA, but they did bomb downtown New York City. That's what 9/11 is all about. One national magazine said about 3 or 4 years later that the Russians were military advisors to Iraq and Iran, and they were guiding them, showing them how to bomb the United States. That's why Los Angeles wasn't bombed, because the mayor of New York said no.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes general public comment. Madam Clerk, is there any additional business before this before this council?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted. They are referred. That should bring us to announcements. Members, announcements. If we could all rise for adjourning motion. If we could all rise for adjourning motions. Members, I request that we adjourn in the memory of John Thomas Young, a former professional baseball player himself, but more well known for creating RBI, which is the program that tried to re-kickstart baseball in the inner cities. And I'll have more information about him tomorrow. But I do think that as we rise today, that we should keep him and his family in our thoughts. So I'm looking to my left, Mr. Englander.
Right, thank you. Thank you, members. It's great sadness that we adjourn in memory of Reb Alter Yosef ben Harav Menachem Mendel, a true leader in the Orthodox community. Passed away on Wednesday, May 4th, and is survived by his children, Rabbi Yehuda Fagan, Alan Fagan, Dr. Beverly Barton, and his many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. His services will be held in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, actually in Israel, at Yeretz HaMechem Cemetery. And his Shiva will be held until next Thursday, May 12th. His son, Rabbi Yehuda, is a dear friend of mine, and I know Paul Koretz as well, a friend of Paul's, and an incredible family here in Los Angeles that often speaks about his roots and what his father's been able to do for not only the folks here in L.A., but also in Israel. So he will be missed, and we'll be thinking about his family. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kretz,
I'd like to be added to that.
you'd like to sign that as well?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino?
Thank you. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Irma Camello, passed away last Thursday, May 5th, after battling breast cancer. Irma was born in Long Beach on October 16, 1953, to Vincent and Angie Albano, and attended Mary Starr, the C Elementary School and High School, after which she worked in the medical industry as a receptionist. She was involved in many organizations, such as the St. Anne Society at Mary Starr Church, the LAPD Harbor Women's Auxiliary Group, also known as the Harbor Lights, and volunteered at the annual Mary Starr Fiesta. Irma met her loving husband, Frank Camello, in 1976 and married him in May of 1980, had 3 sons. She had a contagious, upbeat personality and loved her friends and family and her community. Irma Camello, survived by her loving husband, Frank, who was also an LAPD reserve officer. Her loving sons, Joseph, Johnny, and Christopher, her brothers, Michael and Anthony, and her Aunt Mary, her Uncle Mario, and numerous nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. In lieu of flowers, please consider a contribution to the American Cancer Society. Funeral Mass will be offered Thursday, May 12th, at Mary Starr to C Church at 10:30. Interment to follow at Green Hills. Irma, may she rest in peace. Thank you.
I'm continuing to look to my left side, and now I look to the right side. On the right side, do we have any adjourning? In fact, I got the data, members, that I wanted to on Mr. Young. He was a Los Angeles native, and he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds 1967 in the 27th round, but he opted not to go and play college ball at that time. He enrolled at Chapman College, where he played baseball there. 4 years later, he was then drafted 16th overall in the NFL draft by the Tigers. He played a few games for the Tigers, but was traded to St. Louis shortly after that. He was also an instructor in the minor leagues and a scout. But the big thing about him is he did work. He was doing scouting for the Orioles, and that's when he discovered that there was this unbelievable decline in African-American participation in baseball. The commissioner at that time was Peter Uberoff. They had a conversation with our great mayor, Tom Bradley, who helped put together some of the first funding for the RBI program, which was $50,000. And now, especially those of us from Mr. Buscaino's area, Mr. Price's, and Mr. Harris Dawson, we have seen how RBI has grown and thrived in trying to take what used to be the national pastime and sharing it with young people throughout our inner cities. So he will be missed, and we want to thank him for his service. With that said, members, this meeting is adjourned.